friends, and here we are at our third lesson of the year. Today we will be talking about subtracting integers. For the most part, adding integers I feel like went really well. Remember, we have our two rules for adding integers. If they have the same sign, we add them like normal and keep the sign. If they have a different sign, then we find the difference and keep the sign that we have more of. So now in this lesson, I usually like to surprise people by saying, guess what? Subtracting doesn't happen anymore. At least not formal subtracting. We will be finding the difference, like I mentioned in the last lesson. But today, I want to teach you that we can rewrite subtracting as something else. So here's the big thing to remember. Subtracting a positive is the same as adding a negative. Okay? This becomes a very important concept because as we get further on in our algebraing skills, we're going to want to be able to like change equations around and move stuff around. And we can only do that if we have stuff that's written as adding. Subtracting doesn't follow the commutative property. Only adding does. And so to be able to rewrite things, we have to have it in terms of adding. So what that looks like is if we have 7 minus 4, this is the same thing as 7 plus negative 4. Okay? Being able to switch between these two forms is super important. Okay? So again, 7 minus 4 is the same thing. Oh, I wrote a 7. See, and there's nobody here to catch me when I do that. It's fine. I found it. Okay, 7 minus 4 is the same thing as 7 plus negative 4. Okay, so really subtracting a positive, same thing as adding a negative. And now we will be doing some subtracting, right? Or finding the difference, because that's the rule for this one since we have different signs. But in general, being able to switch from this one to this one, super important. Did I say that enough? Super important. Let's try a couple practice problems. So practice problem 1, 11 minus 14. Now, if you're doing the assignment in the book, I want you to show your work. And what that means is I want you to rewrite this as 11 plus negative 14. Okay? This step is super critical. If you're doing the assignment on MathSpace, I don't know if it's going to make you rewrite it this way or not, but I would like you to, at least if you have a notebook next to you that you're using for scratch paper, practice this step because that's super important, okay? Now, once we're to this step, we can actually do the math out, right? So 11 plus negative 14, we find they have different signs, so we find the difference, which is 3, and then we have more of the negative number, and so the answer is negative 3. Okay, let's try this again. This time we've got negative 4, the first number can be negative, minus 5. So again, the first step, what I want you to do before you do anything else is rewriting this subtraction as adding a negative. So this becomes negative 4 plus negative 5. Really, what we're doing is we're taking this negative and making sure we're attaching it to the number that comes after it. Okay, that's super important. Now that we're to this stage, now we can do the addition. They have the same sign, so we're going to add them like normal. 4 plus 5 is 9, and they're both negative, so it's negative 9. Yeah, now we can actually count these things on a number line if you'd like. So if we could do a different problem. How about we do problem number 3, and we can count this on a number line. So we've got 6 minus 13. First step, though, still I want you to rewrite it. So we've got 6 plus negative 13. Okay, on a number line, we draw this out. Still gonna put 0 right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I might need another one. Okay, so remember when we're drawing these on number lines, we start at 0, and we're gonna go kind of bunny hop or draw a line to the first number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then you can think of it either way. We can either just take away 13 or add negative 13. Either way gets us to the same spot. So we're going to go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And that puts us right here at negative 7. Okay? If we do it not counting on a number line, the difference between 6 and 13 is 7, and we have more negatives. So there we go. Okay, again, right at this stage of the game, being able to switch between these two is really super important, okay? Let's try, so do you guys remember the hot air balloon example that I used yesterday? Here's my hot air balloon, okay? And we can use this to think about subtracting as well. We can start, let's say we start out with 4, we'll just put 4 of each. If we have 4 of each, then we're gonna hover right at 0, right? Remember our balloons lifted up and the sandbags drag it down, okay? So, there we go. Whew, froze for a sec, got nervous. Alrighty, so we can think about, how about we do 3 plus, or we're doing subtracting, 3 minus 4. Okay, so right now, we're going to start with 3 extra hot air balloons. 1, 2, 3. That's where all the balloons went. Cool. All right, and then we're going to minus 4, which means we're going to we can either add in add in 4 sandbags, because, right, we can rewrite this as adding negative 4, or we can just take the 4 sandbags off. Either way, no, wait, we can't take them off. We're putting them on. Haha. We have to do that. We have to add 4 sandbags, which will bring us down 1, 2, 3, 4 to negative 1. I was thinking about the next thing coming up. Okay, so when we're subtracting a positive, then we want to, again, change it to adding the negative, and so we're putting more sandbags on. Now, here is the fun part. Last year, the kids really embraced this idea, and it was actually really super fun. Okay, what happens when we're going to, how about if we have 7 minus negative 13? Now, the actual book rule for all of this is that to subtract an integer, you add its additive inverse. Okay, so that's the fancy book terms. So subtracting is the same thing as adding the additive inverse. So that means we would be changing change subtract to adding and change it to the additive inverse. Remember, the additive inverse is the fancy term for the opposite. So if we have negative 13, that changes to positive 13. Okay, now, so see what happened when we have subtracting a negative, it changes to adding a positive. Now, I like to call this little guy right here, subtract, parentheses, subtract. I'll draw it again, subtract, parentheses, subtract. I call this guy Squinty Face. And this is the guy that last year students really embraced, to the point where I had Squinty Face pictures all over my room. We even had Squinty Face buttons made because they enjoyed Squinty Face so much. So this is, like I said, his name is Squinty Face. And when you see Squinty Face, I'm going to draw it one more time so you can see what I like to do with it. When you see Squinty Face, becomes a really big plus sign. Okay? That's your clue. That's your key. That's the trick. Okay? So if we write that down, the trick to subtracting a negative is change it to adding a positive. And then I'm going to write down to remember Squinty Face. Okay, so remember, Squinty Face turns into a giant plus sign. So let's practice a couple of those so that you can kind of feel comfortable with it. Let's see, we're on practice number 5 here. So if we have 1 minus -2, we rewrite this, that becomes a giant plus sign. And really we have 1 plus 2, which is 3. Ha-ha! Now what I was going to show you on the hot air balloon is we can actually do this. This is what I was thinking I was doing the first time around. So let's make sure I have even numbers on here and start at 0. We'll do 5 and 5. 5 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So right now we just have equal amounts of sandbags and balloons on our hot air balloon, so we're hovering right at 0. So let's say the next one we do is -3 minus -4. Ooh, okay. This one's fun and exciting. So we need to start at -3. So I'm actually going to put 3 sandbags on even more. 1, 2, 3. So we're starting at -3. And now we're going to take away 4 negatives. So if I don't change this sign, I just want to show you how this works on the hot air balloon. If we don't change the signs, because there's our Squinty Face right there, right? So we're going to take away, that's what the subtract means, 4 negatives. So that means I'm going to take off 4 sandbags. 3, 4. And if I take off 4 sandbags, that's going to make the balloon float up 1, 2, 3, 4. And we land at +1. Okay? If we change Squinty Face, it becomes -3 plus 4. And they have different signs, so we find the difference. And we have more positives than we do negatives, so it's +1. So both ways, it works out. Let's try a couple more practice problems with some bigger numbers. So many props. Here we go. Number 6. How about -15 plus, or minus, that's what we're doing right now, minus, subtracting a negative, minus -5. So again, I want you to rewrite it first, just like we do with subtracting a positive. Here's our Squinty Face. Squinty Face turns into a really big plus sign. So this is really -15 plus 5. So they have different signs now. We find the difference, which is 10, and we have more of the negative number, so it's -10. Some even bigger numbers. Oh, now we're just going to practice one from before. Here's number 7. -22 minus 26. Okay? So we don't have a Squinty Face. We don't have any parentheses. So this one we need to rewrite so it's adding a negative. We can maybe call it winky face if you want. Winky face? I don't know, punched in the eye face? You guys let me know what you want to call this one. We need to change this into winky face. So the first number stays the same, negative 22, and we change this subtract to adding the negative. Okay? Winky face, maybe? I don't know. And now we can see we have the same signs. So we're going to add them like normal, which is 48, and keep the sign. And one more, just so we have lots of practice under our belts. We're going to have 10 minus 13. Okay, so we're going to rewrite this subtracting as adding a negative. So we're going to add in our winky face. 10 plus negative 13. And we can see that they have different signs. So we find the difference, which is 3. And we have the most of the negative numbers, so it's negative 3. Okay? Now, just a little note for the ones of you, for all of you, but especially the ones that are doing the assignment in the book. There is a couple of problems that ask you to evaluate. Okay? And what this means is you put in the numbers. You put in whatever numbers they tell you to for the variables. Variables are the letters. And then do the math. Okay, so again, whenever it tells you to evaluate, that you'll put in the numbers for whatever variables are there, and then you actually just do the math. So for example, we could have x equals 4, y equals negative 6, and z equals negative 2. Okay, so we could have something like, this would be number 9, x minus y. So the first step whenever you're evaluating like this is you just want to put the numbers in for the letters. So x is 4. And then we have the minus doesn't change, and then y is negative 6. What do we see here? It's squinty face! Yay! Squinty face turns into a big plus, so really we have 4 plus 6, which equals 10. If we try this one more time, we could do y minus z. So first we put the numbers in for the letters. Y is negative 6. And we've got minus, and then z is negative 2. Okay, we have a squinty face again. So really we have negative 6 plus 2. They are different signs, so we find the difference, which is 4, and we have more negatives, so it's negative 4. Okay, hopefully that helps, and whenever you see that on an assignment, that's what evaluate means to do. Okay, so don't forget we've now added in squinty face, and maybe we'll start calling this guy right here winky face. Sounds good to me. Okay, good luck. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to send messages, and I am happy to help. Or if you need extra help, send a message, and we can set up a Zoom tutoring, or you can come in on a Friday, any of those good things. Okay?